Okay, well, welcome everyone. We're live streaming. Good to be here. So this is Drop-In Meditation, Vajrayana Institute. My name's Alan. So what we're doing is our normal routine. We do about 20-25 minutes of breathing meditation, and then about the same amount of time on a guided meditation, sometimes called analytical meditation. So we usually start with an inspiring quote, and this one's from Lama Yeshe, so just general comments about meditation. So he says, when you're sick, you take medicine to cure your illness. Meditation is similar. A cure for the disease, brackets, an uncontrolled and undisciplined mind, and a salve, S-A-L-V-E, for its symptoms, or the many forms of suffering we experience. Just as we're responsible for our own suffering, so we're solely responsible for our own cure. And then he says, changing the mind isn't like painting a room. You can change the color of a room in an hour. It takes a lot longer than that to transform an attitude of mind. Many people imagine that controlling the mind is some kind of tight, restrictive bondage. However, actually, true control is a natural state that arises moment to moment simply from recognizing attachments as attachments, anger as anger, ego as ego. There's no such thing as instant mental control, or instant cure. So with that, we'll do our breathing meditation, and just particularly because we're going to do the meditation on attachment in the second meditation, try when we're looking at what sort of thoughts are coming in to distract us, try seeing if we can find anything to do with attachment. So that means things that draw our attention to something better than what we're doing. Certainly know that, you think, oh, well, this session's, then I can go and have a cup of coffee, or then I can do something. So that's sort of looking ahead, not being content with what we're doing, which is part of attachment, following desire, which is, there's always something better, always a feeling that this is not quite complete, not quite satisfied. So definitely, certainly that can be a very strong distracting force. We're trying to just sit and watch the breath, which to the desire mind is incredibly boring. What's so interesting about the breath? Something much more interesting later on, somewhere else. But as Lama Yeshe said, just watching, recognizing attachment as attachment, anger as anger, ego as ego, just watching how the mind works is amazing, really interesting, and also is the cure for that wandering mind. Okay, so let's start. We'll do the 9-round breathing because it says to be very good to get rid of distraction. So probably we all know what 9-round breathing is, but just anyone's watching that they don't know, what we do is just breathe. It's said to be very good for clearing the obstacles to the practice. So we breathe 3 times in through the right nostril, left, 3 times in through the left, out through the right, and 3 times in through both, out through both. We can actually use one finger to block the one we're not using, or we can just visualize that. So that's all it is. There's an option of visualizing white light with the in-breath, white light symbolizing all the positive energy of the universe, and breathing out black smoke, which is all our obscurations and interferences. That's an option. Okay, so let's start. Get comfortable. So let's begin now with the 9-round breathing, starting with the 3 breaths in through the right nostril and out through the left. And 3 times in through the left, out through the right. And then 3 times in through both, out through both nostrils. And then back to normal breathing. So now our attention inwards, checking out how we feel physically and mentally, feeling a sense of gratitude that we can actually be here together. We woke up this morning still in the human body, still alive, still able to do some practice and develop the mind. Develop the mind towards path to liberation and full enlightenment. And this session is part of that. No expectations, just seeing what's happening in our mind. By doing that, we're taking care of the mind, becoming aware of the mind. Our aim is not just to benefit ourselves, but the big motivation to benefit ourselves by becoming liberated, ultimately becoming fully enlightened, the greatest benefit of all beings. So now we just check our body. Are we comfortable? A comfortable, relaxed body means that the mind will be more relaxed, evenly balanced on the chair or the floor. Find the spine reasonably straight, shoulders relaxed. Checking the muscles around the face, the eyes, the jaw need to be soft and relaxed. Eyes can be closed or gently open. Getting the weight of our body and the surface we're sitting on. With each out breath, have a sense of letting go, surrendering. Surrendering the body to gravity, the earth. Surrendering control and becoming aware of what's happening without control. each out breath, have a sense of breathing out any tension in the body, and you're holding on with the mind. Becoming more aware of the breath, how the body moves with each breath. Watching where the breath flows, down into the abdomen, into the chest, through the nostrils. Breath is happening without our control. We're just bystanders watching what happens with the breath. Part of watching the breath is also checking, are we still on the breath? Introspection. Can we do one full breath without being distracted? Just one breath at a time is all we need. Being with that. Always there will be some thoughts in the background coming and going. It's okay. We're not trying to stop them. But we don't follow, we just come back to the breath. Perhaps we can notice what those thoughts are about the future, the past, maybe an emotion, a feeling. Recognize it, let it go. So they don't leave a trace. Whatever the breath's doing, we're fully aware, noticing more and more what the breath is doing. Whether it's even, uneven, long breath, short breath. There's plenty to watch with the breath. Okay, so just relax and have a stretch if you need to. Okay, so the second practice we're going to do is the one on attachment. Last week we did anger. So these are said to be two sides of the same coin: attachment, anger, sometimes called aversion. The anger is aversion, and attachment is sometimes just desire. So these are the three most harmful emotions: are attachment, anger, and ignorance. Ignorance as being the cause of the former two, attachment and anger. So ignorance is the not realizing the way things actually exist, seeing things as being inherently good or inherently bad, including the self, sense of self, and then clinging to those beliefs very strongly. So, so this is said to be quite harmful, very harmful. Whereas anger is more obvious, often can be just like an explosion. The attachment is much more subtle, so to be very difficult, sometimes almost indetectable, because it's just working in the background. And so harder to remove, because it's often mistaken for love. This is what I think Alan Watts calls that love is attachment is the near enemy of love, the near enemy. So mostly it's said that unless we're very highly realized beings like bodhisattvas or Buddhas, it's said that unless we're very highly realized beings like bodhisattvas or Buddhas, love is mixed up very much with attachment. So, of course, it can be to things as well. Just quoting Lama Yeshe on this topic, he says, contrary to what people might believe, there's nothing wrong with having pleasures and enjoyments. What's wrong is the confused way we grasp onto these pleasures, turning them from a source of happiness to a source of pain and dissatisfaction. He says, enjoy your mature life as much as you can, but at the same time, understand the nature of your enjoyment, the hallucinatory, impermanent nature of both the object you're enjoying and the mind that is experiencing that enjoyment, and how the two relate. So this is renunciation of becoming more reasonable through knowing the characteristic nature of pleasure and the objects of pleasure. Understanding all this very deeply is the true purpose of religion. So the truly rich person, he says, is the one who's a satisfied mind. The affluence of satisfaction comes from wisdom, not from external things. Isn't that great? The affluence of satisfaction. Just putting that word together with something that's not material. Affluence of satisfaction, having lots of satisfaction, lots of contentment. So the Venerable Adrian Feldman, Thupten Gatso, this wonderful book, The Perfect Mirror, which I bought a long time ago, which is a collection of his teachings. He's very good at this. He says desire and love are not the same thing. Love is a positive emotion that we should cultivate. It's the pure wish for somebody else to be happy, whereas desire is the wish for oneself to be happy. So the emotion of being in love is a mixture of desire and real love. And the main cause of unhappiness associated with this desire. So when pain in your heart indicates that desire is manifesting, you should apply its antidote and turn your mind towards nirvana and enlightenment. So cultivate detachment first by contemplating the folly of desire, the false, its exaggeration, superimposition and clinging, and then seeing the object of desire as it is in reality, a transient phenomenon that's empty of projections. That's one of the antidotes, contemplating the false, and with that, impermanence of what we're so attached to. When we do the practice, we do contemplate false. So then he talks about how there's different practices in Buddhism about meditating about the beautiful bodies and imagining them as decomposing or dying and becoming skeletons. And he says, try doing this with someone who's captured your heart. And then he has very interesting story. He says, when I was a medical student, spending many hours each day dissecting corpses, I was dismayed to realize that beautiful girls were beginning to appear as walking skeletons. Beneath the skin that beckoned to be touched, I saw yellow nodules of fat, red muscle, and white bones that dissipated my desire. And then until I'd had a few drinks anyway. So he says, romantics may complain that this clinical approach to the experience of being in love is a dispassionate negation of true and spontaneous emotion, whose pleasure is necessarily inseparable from its pain. But the cemeteries are full of frustrated romantics. There's no contradiction in cultivating love and attachment simultaneously. But this, in fact, is the only way to have truly spontaneous love, the vehicle that can take us beyond suffering and death. Very deep, bringing in his medical background. So that's a good introduction from Adrian. And so basically the practice is we start off with some situation where we've been very attached, and the usual suggestion is to think of some time when we're incredibly in love, maybe in lust and love, and then it went wrong, then it disappeared. So that feeling of incredible overestimation of the object, attachment, grasping, and then the disappointment when things go wrong. Either we get rejected or we realise the person is not what we thought. Just thinking this is very much in the news at the moment. So that's it can be a person. They suggest the person is usually more powerful, but if we know that we have some attachment to a particular object or some obsession, Robina often uses the grandma's precious antique cup that somebody smashes accidentally, and how mind thinks that the whole world has entered this incredibly important, and just watching that mind of attachment. So it could be something like that. Whatever it is, we watch the excited mind, and we think also as a bystander, thinking, actually, was that mind really enjoyable? We thought we were in heaven, but actually the mind was incredibly disturbed and probably hallucinating, because with attachment, the definition is that we put too much icing on the cake. We falsely assume that something has good qualities that either are not there or there are there, but that we grossly exaggerate. So, so by doing this, we're also seeing that, and then we're holding on to something that's not there. So it's going to be disappointing. It's going to end badly. So, so that's what we start off with. So we try and arouse the feeling of anger, and then we say, watch what's happening. Sorry, I've got attachment, and watch what's happening. And comes in because we can't deny that these things or persons that we are so attached to will eventually disappear. They'll either get old and die, or they'll perfect car, the perfect house will eventually collapse and get old. Nothing obtains its perfect new shininess. There's always, as soon as we buy something new, it starts to get old, particularly with technology, as we know. So we look at that very dispassionately. Another one is death meditation, which we may not have time to do. And then the last one, which Lama Yeshi mentioned, is emptiness, seeing that this object, both the object and the I that's attached, the self, has nothing permanent, self-existing from its own side. Nothing intrinsically there. When we look, it seems to be there, but when we look, we can't find it. And when we seem to think that this self that needs this object so much is there, on analysis, it's not findable. Something that is just labelled on top of this collection of body and mind parts. So that's the last answer. That's the emptiness meditation said to be ultimately the most powerful. It's probably the most difficult, the most powerful to help let go of attachment. Nothing's going to be sudden, as Lama Yeshe says. Nothing's going to happen like painting the room. It's a long-term project, particularly with attachment. Okay, so let's see what we can do with it. Okay, so we start with our contemplation of the faults of attachment with our breath meditation. A few moments to come back to that calm state of mind, mindfulness. So we begin by recalling some episode we can remember where we were very attached, or our emotions clinging very much to some person or an object. Maybe our first love or crush. Something that is no longer of interest to us, something at the time we thought was the most important thing in our life. Recall our excited mind, state of mind we have. The unsettled mind. Ask, was this a peaceful, calm state of mind? Whatever that object was, we were seeing that 100% good qualities in that person. No faults. Something that somebody who was going to fulfill all our needs, satisfy something that was missing in us. Part of that process was being separated from that person or object, and that difficult state of mind when we want to be with that person but we can't. Pain of separation. Pain of wanting the pleasurable experience again and again. Not being fully satisfied, wanting more. And then the time when it came to an end, the dissatisfaction, sense of loss, perhaps even anger. Maybe depression we felt. How much room in our mind was there for loving kindness, compassion, thinking of others during this process? I was very clouded by excitement and dissatisfaction, craving. Remembering that during that time we probably had no idea about the teachings on impermanence. Permanence applies to all phenomena, ourselves and objects, others. Nothing lasts. Samsara. Perhaps at the time, if we'd looked at that person as an old person, or as a skeleton, or components of impure parts, blood, the bones, the excrement, would we have the same feelings? Perhaps we can apply this sense of impermanence to all the things that we thought would bring full satisfaction, but didn't. The new technology, the new car, the perfect holiday. How long were we satisfied? How long was it before the feelings of pleasure turned to dissatisfaction, perhaps repulsion? Another antidote to attachment is just meditation on death, just reminding ourselves that Before too long, we'll have to depart all the things we're attached to, including our own body. All the friends, the relatives, enjoy us. Practicing this letting go, less attachment before we come to the moment of death will help us at the time of death to let go. At the time of death, we have no choice to let go. The only thing that will help us is our state of mind, our non-attached, non-clinging mind, a calm state of mind. So the other antidote to attachment is contemplating on emptiness, how this I that is so attached to this object or person exists. Can we find this I, this sense of self that needs the object so much? The self that feels incomplete without this person or object. We feel it's definitely there, but when we analyze and look, definitely there, but when we analyze and look, we feel it's definitely there, but when we analyze and look, just this collection of parts, aggregates of body and mind, and the label me on top. Those labels, those parts are changing constantly. The body gradually disintegrating, aging, the mind changing from moment to moment. Then when we look at this object, this person that we need, that we're so sure is out there, can we find it? Can we find this perfect person? Is there anything inherently attractive, pleasing? Yeah, it's just our projection. If that person was so inherently attractive, why doesn't everybody see that person the same way? Or that object or that thing? Can we see how the exaggeration of the qualities of that person or thing is from our own projection, our own mind? Both the object is attached, that we're attached to, and the I, the me that is attached, merely labeled, nothing inherently there from its own side, dependently arising from cause and effects, constantly changing causes and effects. So the conclusion is we can enjoy our material life, our loved ones. We need to understand, as Lamy says, the nature of our enjoyment, the hallucinatory and permanent nature, the object we're enjoying and the mind that is experiencing that enjoyment. And as Lamy says, this is renunciation of becoming more reasonable through knowing the characteristics, the nature of pleasure and the objects of pleasure. The truly rich person is the one who has a satisfied mind. The affluence of satisfaction comes from wisdom, not from external things. So we can dedicate any positive merit from this practices, or we've done in the past, we'll do in the future, towards a satisfied, calm state of mind, understanding the characteristics, pleasure, pain, developing peace in our own minds, peace in the minds of other beings, and peace in the world. And using Lama Zopa's dedication, especially for the coronavirus, however many sick sentient beings there are, may they quickly be freed of all sickness. May all the sickness without exception of transmigrating beings never occur again. Due to the merits of 3 times collected by me, the numberless Buddhas, the numberless sentient beings, may all wars or sickness, famine, torture, poverty, economic problems in the world, all dangers of earth, water, fire, and wind be pacified immediately. May perfect peace and happiness prevail in everyone's hearts and lives. May the Buddha Dharma last for a long time. May sentient beings in the world meet the Buddha Dharma and achieve enlightenment as quickly as possible. Dedicating to that. Okay, so thanks very much for being here. It's great to be here. Have a great afternoon and a great week. And hopefully we'll all be back here again next week, same time. Okay. Turn it off.